Okay, everyone's here. Welcome, everyone. Today, we look at steps 6 and 7 from a non dual perspective. If you could just hand over. Come back to awareness. So, from a non dual perspective, what is reclaimed from the inventory is awareness. The essential nature of you is awareness. No longer identifying with the body-mind in a way that defines you as awareness. Awareness now becomes liberated from the bondages of self or attachment to the body-mind. Awareness is no longer assuming a thought, thinking your thoughts. Awareness comes away from self-obsession, and instead it stands alone. It is that awareness that is recovered. Having done the inventory and step 5, the admission to self, another human being, and to God, it is awareness that remains the lasting understanding. Awareness no longer qualified by character defect. It is permanent. And it's with this awareness that one enters into the new life. Awareness, when realized, when recovered from its over-identification with the body-mind, cannot now live in relation to its attachment to the body-mind as it was before. As it was before, awareness identified with the mind, out of which the thought I then thought the mind. So awareness can't go back into the dis-ease, the I, self, me, the ism. Awareness, when realized, can see that these attachments do not qualify it, do not define it. But you have to go through an inventory process, an admission process, for this to become known. So awareness is the fruit, or should I say, liberated awareness is the fruit of having worked steps 1 to 5. Now, not everybody gets this in the first time they work a program, or a few times of working the program. But the result is the same. You find permanence and serenity as awareness. And a new life of relating as awareness begins. Not as the I thought. The I thought just keeps you in your head, tries to possess your emotions. This is self-centeredness, self-obsession, which ultimately defines you as a thinker. But from the non-dual perspective, you're not the thinker. You are awareness, firstmost. And what we'll explore this evening with step 6 is the power of that. Because we can use the word awareness, but in itself it's just a word. But taking a closer look into awareness, you can come to see how powerful that is. Not powerful in the way of the persuasive type of power that comes from the thinking argument, the identity argument, which is it qualifies itself by its own reasoning, and within that it tries to persuade. Awareness doesn't do that. Awareness is completely accepting of everything. It is the experience of everything without judging. This is why with the program, it's always using words like serenity, acceptance, non-judgmentalism, and stuff like that. In reality, it's just awareness. And as awareness, relating as awareness. Not attaching to your person to conclude something, reason something, and persuade something. Awareness doesn't need that. There's no argument. Awareness just is. Everything begins to rest on step 6. That's what the program has promised you. In step 1, we saw the problem was attachment to the body-mind, self-obsession. The mind that thinks itself, the false thought that is a thinker that thinks your thoughts. We saw that as a problem. We saw that as separation. In step 2, it leads to the solution being a higher power, a transcendent power. which is, of course, is awareness. It is a power greater than you because it's transcendent of you, meaning it is knowing of you. Awareness comes first. So the rallying point to sanity is remaining as awareness, which can only be found from having done an inventory and the admission. There's no more identifying with defects, being caught up in defects. Instead, there's simply this awareness of them. This is where step 6 becomes a completely new way of life, and it becomes also a completely new science, new method, whatever you want to call it. A method whereby there is no one doing it. And when I say no one, I mean in the beginning, coming into the fellowship and working the program, there's always that I thought doing this. There's always that self-obsessed way of trying to control, trying to understand, having that motive which served this personal sense of I. But by the time you get to step 6, the motive falls away for the awareness to be the primary reality. Whereas previous, the primary reality was this voice in the head, I, self, me. Now awareness is the primary reality. And here we begin to enter into a different kind of science, as I said. And it's a science that's quite paradoxical because it can't be grasped by the mind. You see, awareness in itself knows itself, okay? And as I've said before, awareness of itself is the self, or awareness of awareness is just awareness. It doesn't divide. It doesn't separate in order to know itself and be itself, okay? Now, we can't say that about the thinker or the I thought or the self-obsession. Self-obsession is characterized by the thought I thinking these thoughts and the thought I being qualified by what it thinks. This creates a kind of self-obsession. It creates a duality, and in it there's a separation because you have one thought and the other thoughts, or the illusionary thought I being the thinker of these thoughts that arise in your head, these mental streams that occur in your head, okay? Now you stand as awareness, step 6. Very powerful step because it's a very powerful reality and a powerful truth. That's what you are. And as awareness, you come to see that you are the experiencer of your person, of the perceived mind or the thoughts that are arising, a feeling that is occurring. Now there's a shift. There's a shift in perspective here. One is experiencing as awareness all of your personal content that continues to play out, okay? The only difference here is that awareness is the primary reality, okay? And if awareness is the primary reality, awareness is what comes first, despite what thoughts are continuing to occur or what pull into a sense of separation even may occur. You'll know, having done step 4 and 5, that the rallying point of sanity, step 2, is coming back to this. So step 2 is very much pointing at steps 6 and 7. All of the steps really point to each other. It was all based down on awareness, because awareness is the only thing that can be recovered from over identification with the body-mind. So coming back to the paradox, step 6, it is as awareness you experience. So what happens here is, as awareness in your daily life, you can still be triggered by certain people, places, or things. The old thoughts can still arise. The old feelings can still arise. The same body reactions to things can still occur. But primarily speaking, awareness comes first, because awareness is the experiencer of you. In steps 8 and 9, I will show you how you and the awareness being the experiencer of you start to come together as one. But that's further along the line. What we're looking at here in steps 6 and 7 is awareness, the nature of it, paradox of it, the new way of life of it. Okay? So having recovered as awareness, coming to as the primary reality as awareness, you'll come to see that it's permanent despite what is occurring in your mind, your heart, your body. You even continue to be aware of certain character defects that still want to play out. But now you're aware. And as awareness, you can be the direct experience of a tendency or a character defect that still wants to play out. But the rallying point is now secured. One can remain aware. One can remain as the experiencer, as awareness, as consciousness. So being pulled into streams of thought can still occur. Identifying with a mind can still occur. But the rallying point to sanity becomes more of a reality. Step 6 becomes more of a reality. So what occurs then as this awareness, you start to see that it's not just thoughts and feelings that occur, but also what I call ego states of consciousness. Not, you see, awareness is not a state of consciousness. Okay, it's just awareness. Okay? But states of consciousness you'll see alter. This is where the saying altered states of consciousness occur. They only occur in the mind, in the heart, in the body. Okay. But awareness never alters. It remains permanent. It is the permanent witness. It is prior all alteration. It is perfect. Okay. So you become the unaltered awareness, direct experiencing these alterations in your person as you meet everyday life, and how in your alterations, how they have their feelings, to how your behaviors are in relation to you and other people. Okay. Now, these altered states of consciousness, one of them is a personal sense of self. Okay, so even if you remain as a formless consciousness, even if you remain as formless awareness, it still appears as a diversity. There's everything you see in the world is diversity, but it all has its roots in the awareness of what is experiencing it. See? So the root of all phenomena, even altered states of consciousness in your person, has its root in pure observation, in consciousness. So even these altered states, you'll still get a personal sense of self occurring. Just the flavor of you, the personal sense of you. But what is experiencing that is just pure consciousness. Okay? Awareness then, being the observer, being the permanent sanity, rallying point to sanity, being the permanent recovered principle, is the experiencer even of these altered states, even of this personal sense of you. And the personal sense of you will come inward to what is observing, and what is observing will be the experiencer of you. This is where it starts to become one. We go more into that in steps 8 and 9. So step 6 is good. Now, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the first book that introduced the 12 steps to the field of so many fellowships, addiction fellowships, in the original version of the 12 steps, an appendix was put in the back regarding spiritual experience. And in it, it describes how some of us tapped into an inner resource. Okay. Again, this is where step 6 is really important, because the inner resource is the very innermost of awareness. Okay, when awareness starts to contemplate itself, it comes to see it's a different vibratory sensation than anything that's appearing. It's kind of, just vibratory. It's like the underlying vibe to everything, thoughts, feelings, physicality. Awareness, being the experiencer of it, can actually contemplate itself, and within itself, there's like an essence, what I call an essence. Okay, and I believe that from that essence, thoughts are born. Everything is created. Everything sort of comes into being from that essence, and that is step 7. Okay. I'll show you now how it kind of works together. This dynamic works. Excuse me. I hope that's not too loud. Quite near this. Okay, so with step 6 as awareness, you don't go from awareness and suddenly go into a doership, go into a thought thinking you, managing you. What's the other word? You kind of let go of the personal sense of doership regarding working on your patterns with the trying to make yourself a better person in the sense of a personal sense. Okay. What what the program's pointing at here is much deeper than that. It's way more powerful than that. Because there's always a tendency to attach to the mind and do something. That's the addict principle. With what the program's pointing at is, as awareness, being aware of your character defects. For instance, if a character defect is still occurring, what the program is not asking you to do is to actually go into a personal sense and do something. Okay, it's not saying that. What the program's saying is, when you see a character defect, rely upon your inner resource to deal with it. Don't separate from it and suddenly be caught up in a thought thinking you're working a program. Okay. And when you start to do this in the way that the program points to, you come to see a very different way of processing, totally different. I'm going to explain it to you. Okay. Now, remember what I said about awareness. Awareness, you know, when words like acceptance, you know, serenity, is all attributed to awareness, really, because it remains permanent and it's not attached to thought, so it's not judgmental. Okay. So this really applies to you when something is occurring within you, some disturbance or some pull to separate, some tendency. Any pull to separate always results into a character defect, always some self-centered, self-obsessed behavior. Okay, so even if you think you're doing something really good and you're doing it in that way where you separate from this, you know, that's where we end up entering into self-seeking and stuff like that. So coming away from all of that, coming back to awareness that's been reclaimed from doing a step 4 and 5, you come to see that awareness doesn't get pulled into the body mind that way anymore, because, you know, awareness itself is non-personal. It doesn't need anything. So if there's any modification that needs to be done in your patterning, it doesn't need to come from a modified personal sense trying to remodify modification. Again, this is duality. Okay, it's about remaining whole, remaining gentle, remaining surrendered as that awareness, as that perfect observation. And seeing as well that that perfect awareness is what you know to be true at all time, despite what's trying to pull you out. That's always true. That's your heart. It's your heart of all experience. It's only that awareness that's experiencing your body mind. So that is the true heart, okay? Heart of all experience. So remain in your heart. So step 6 is the heart opening, the awareness opening, seeing its true nature and permanently abiding as that rallying point to sanity or permanence. So if a character defect does occur, awareness is the experience of it, but awareness doesn't have to get caught up into some modified idea to sort it out. It just needs to relate from itself, just needs to meditate it, needs to accept the character defect, but remain as awareness. And then awareness, instead of separating and remodifying as a thought idea to sort it all out, to relate from itself, from its innermost, which can be called God. You know, the 12 steps point at God. We ask God. So it says, humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. Okay, and of course, in non-dual perspective, what that is awareness relating from its innermost source, okay, which is not the body mind. So there we already have the end of self-obsession, totally. Awareness can relate from its innermost. Okay. Now something here quite remarkable happens when that happens. All right. And I'll explain it. Whatever character defect or patterned shortcoming, when you start to relate from your person, it's a much lower consciousness. It's a contracted consciousness that's maintained by attention. The tension comes from attachment, from identifying. The more you identify with your mind as the primary reality principle, you become a thought that thinks your mind, and then you'll be a thought that not only just thinks your mind, but thinks thoughts about your feelings, create other feelings. You know, negativity in the body and confusion in the head. But if you just remain as awareness, you'll come to see that by not identifying with the tendency to separate, the tendency to separate starts to weaken. That pattern that has you separate will start to weaken, okay? Because you're not identifying with it. If you're not identifying with it, you're not intensifying it, you're not feeding it. So suddenly awareness, in relation to itself, contemplating itself, the formless reality of what you are, it starts to give of what you are, okay? Your very attention starts to administer that very essence, okay? And it's a much higher consciousness than any contracted meaning in your mind that seeks to take you in a way to separate you from that process. What tries to separate you from your knowing, remaining as awareness, is always a lower consciousness. Awareness is a higher consciousness, and it can deliver an essence that can dissipate that tension. So you don't need to do anything. This is where, in the non-dual perspective, tendencies start to fall away. And that's how they fall away. It's not anyone doing anything, okay? So here we have awareness being ready, willing and ready, being permanent, being the observer. And here we have, by no longer attaching as a means to change things, but relating from reality itself, the greater reality, the very essence of what awareness is, the very origin of awareness, which of course is non-location. In that sense, it's not here because it's not characterized by here. You know, whatever you think, feel, or do doesn't define you as awareness. Okay. It just reflects you as awareness. Okay, so there's a big difference here. It doesn't define you, qualify you as awareness, but it does reflect you as awareness. Because all is one, there's no separation. It's only the I thought that makes you think there's a separation, but there isn't. Awareness is not separate from the forms, and the forms reflect what you are being as awareness, how you're being your person, how you're coming into your person as awareness. Are you aware? Are you conscious? Do your forms reflect that? You see? Because there's no separation between form and the formless. In steps 8 and 9, you really start to come to see this more and more. Okay, the steps 6 and 7 is the very basic instruction of now that you're not this I possessing the body, self-obsession. Basically 6 and 7 is saying, now this is what you look like. You're formless. You are a formless nature of awareness, being the experiencer of your person, of your mind or heart, or whatever. And then in 8 and 9, how that then really comes into your person, how that really starts to undo areas in your person where attachments still have a pull to define you as a thought, attachment, whatever. So you could say step 6 and 7 is the unveiling of what you really are. Having seen the distortion of who you thought you were. So when you begin to understand this from the point of awareness, as awareness, not being caught up in your person thinking about going into your awareness, no, as awareness, simple fact. You may, you know what you are now, and it doesn't matter then if you get caught up in your person, if the mind takes you, it really doesn't matter, because you'll come back, you'll come to see what step 2 is pointing at. You don't have to do another step 2. Step 6 is step 2, is the awakened step 2. So the rallying point is just coming back to awareness and seeing that, and allowing awareness to be the primary reality. And don't forget, the I thought ego has been the primary reality for many years, many years. And so it may feel counterintuitive at first just to remain as awareness, or start experiencing your life as awareness. It may feel counterintuitive, whereas the I thought is very good at running your life, very good at judging people or judging situations or managing your life or seeking this method, seeking that method, when in the last word, it is just awareness. However much you want to ponder it, the understanding in the going beyond the analysis, the understanding is just awareness. And it's beautiful, untouched, innocent. It is gentle, merciful, as it's the experience of everything in you. At the same time, it is the forgiveness of everything in you. It's only when you separate do you judge yourself and judge others. But coming back to awareness, awareness is very forgiving, very accepting. It is the experience of you. And then as that awareness in relation to its own contemplation, formless contemplation, is very innermost. And try this as an exercise, as awareness. Just contemplate the depth of awareness, not from your mind, but as awareness itself, that vibratory feeling. Just let it come inward to the very essence of it. And you'll come to see that your very focus on things conveys that essence. It ministers the essence. Okay. And this happens physically as well. This happens even when I'm looking at you, as awareness, it administers an essence, and it feels good. Now, when awareness in relation to its innermost, 6 and 7, administers this essence, in the Far East, they call it transmission. And transmission isn't just for gurus. It's a natural state for everyone, believe it or not. It's, it's not a mystical thing. It's a natural thing. The natural state is natural. And the natural state awareness in relation to its innermost is an administration of essence, right? So that's natural. So remaining as that awareness in relation to innermost, 6 and 7, you're being forgiving even to your character defects, to anything in your person that doesn't quite match this level of consciousness, this high level of consciousness. So these tendencies do start to fall away. But that's spoken of more in 8 and 9. It does feel counterintuitive at first, and it may even feel quite vulnerable at first, you know, because with 6 and 7, you're not holding anything other than what you are as awareness in relation to your innermost. You know, you've got nothing else really, just this way of being, a way of being that you could call intimacy. So in the beginning, it may feel a bit strange, but you get used to it. It takes time, but you get used to it. You might get pulled out, you'll come back, and then you'll start to see what you love more. Do you actually like being separated and getting caught up in egoic tendencies that separate you from this, or do you prefer coming back to this? And when you do come back to this and you start to see those patterns that separate you, or those patterns that are self-defeating or self-destructive, you'll start to see that really all that matters is just be aware of it and love awareness more than separating into an idea of what to do, you know. And you'll come to see how powerful this gaze has, not just on people, physical things, but also on your internal emotional nature and internal mental nature, psychological nature. It's how you forgive yourself. It's how you remodify yourself, how you rebuild yourself, and how the new building starts to reflect you as awareness being. And in the personal sense of being in the world, you won't get caught up in it. The personal sense of you will be experienced by the non-personal part of you. They become one. It's only this I thought, and this is the thing that is quite incredible, really, when you look back at the early recovery, having worked a few steps, you come to see that the whole of addiction, the whole turmoil, all of this suffering stems from separation, which assumes a thought that thinks your mind or thinks your thoughts. How many times have you heard an addict or an alcoholic say, I'm stuck in my head, or my mad head, I need to share it, and stuff like that? That's the ism, that's the disease. But what's aware of this, what's extricated from steps 4 and 5, is the rallying point to sanity. It is that ultimately changes all of that. When you start to experience your life as awareness, not as someone thinking about going into awareness, but as awareness, all of those modifications start to open up, tension starts to fall out, and tendencies start to fall away. But it takes time. Don't expect this to happen all in 1 week or 1 month even. This is an ongoing program, a design for living a spiritual life that will last all of your life. But the principle is the same. You know, live in the day, every day. It's a new day. Live in the day, live in the moment. The reality principle, the primary principle, is consciousness, the experiencer, not separating from itself, allowing that to be the experience of all phenomena. You see? Step 6 and 7. Readiness as awareness, asking God in relation to God. Reality. I like the word reality. Okay, I've got a question. Various times you mentioned the feeling of going mad as one moves towards awareness. Why is this? Recently, I feel as if I'm going mad. Can't make sense of things anymore. Is this my ego, I thinking, losing its strength, or am I going mad? You're not going mad, okay? Now, when you've been living for many years as a doer, as an I thought, thinking your thoughts, all of your thoughts invest in you. As the thinker, all of your thoughts define you as existing. This is what we call the I thought, the ego. So the ego maintains its identity, it maintains its reality by being defined by what you think and what you feel. This we know is the self-obsession. We know this is the disease. But that ego thought, okay, that's defined by your thinking, still wants to live defined by what you think and what you feel. So it wants nice feelings, it wants nice thoughts, it wants to be seen, you know, it still wants to do that. But if you come into awareness, you come to see that that I thought isn't really experiencing your thoughts and feelings. So it's an illusion that is defined by your thoughts and feelings. Awareness comes first. It's the primary reality. So it may feel as if you're going mad, but it's only that thought that feels it's going mad. Okay? Only that thought. And if you're caught up in that thought, it will feel scary. Okay? It was scary for me, but I had no one telling me this. Okay? So as I'm here telling you, just with the thought of going mad and everything, the I thought that's thinking too much and having thoughts about your feelings and being defined by what you feel and what you think. Just relax, okay? And just become aware. Come to see that who you think you are being defined by your thoughts and feelings, self-obsession. Just come to see that none of that really defines you as awareness, does it? You don't have to go through the fear of madness or the fear of death. You just, you know, the program is very gentle. It's step 4 is doing an inventory, coming to see how self-obsession plays out and how from its character defects it can be seen to be destructive and maintaining unmanageability, separation, and there's all that powerlessness. And then step 5, with that great admission to self, someone else, and God, what's left? You've been busted. It's just awareness. That's the only permanent reality there is. You don't have to go, you don't have to feel you're going mad, you know, but it can feel overwhelming, all right? It can feel overwhelming to the little thought you have of I. But just relax, sit down, let your thoughts settle, let your feelings settle, and just come to see that there's an awareness of all of this. Okay, you don't have to separate from that awareness to think and to fear and to all of these. You know, this inner resource is there all the time. The way the program was put together, the way it was, the way it gives us the instruction, or it gives us guidance or whatever. It isn't about suddenly giving up the I thought anyway and dying and going through fear of madness and fear of death. It's the educational variety of spiritual awakening. Okay, so there's a process. You know, go back to step 2. If you're not ready, go back to step 2. Do some work on what you think a higher power is. Think about step 3. Think about, how do I hand over my way of trying to control all of this, my way of even trying to get well, you know, because step 3 is, you know, straight after step 3 is very much, this is what we did. You know, they're offering you what we did. We take inventory. Maybe do some inventory. Is there a fear? What do you fear? You know, look at the causes and conditions. But ultimately, it is about coming back to awareness. Awareness is the natural state. You know, the fact that you're feeling this sense of going mad, you know, the primary reality of that is awareness. Be gentle with yourself. if there is a fear of going mad, also just relax until the mind is relaxed, and just bring your awareness into your body. That can work as well. That can ground you more into your body. You don't need to separate from your body in fear. Just come into your body. Maybe come into your heart and feel what's going on in your emotional center. Maybe do some inventory, do some step 5. Talk about it. Okay. Okay. Question. One of the strongest identifications that I have now is the idea that I am someone looking for truth and trying to find a freedom and a love of life and people. I can see how strong this attachment is. I can also see how it gets in the way of just accepting what is in any moment. Yeah, that's right. Of course, because, the oldest pattern we have, or the pattern of reality we have, is the I. And when you've been living your life as this I thought, there's always a motive. There's always a motive. It hijacks the needs, and it wants approval, or it wants this, or it wants that. It's always seeking. It's what seeking is, isn't it? But just accept all of that right now. Just accept all of it. Awareness is completely accepting it. You've just got to go from that wanting it to being it. This is what step 6 and 7 is. It's the revelation that we are it. Being it. Practice awareness. You've done a few steps. You've done a few working the steps. So in the next week, this is what I would ask people to do is because it's so overlooked. Awareness is so overlooked. I mean, overlooking awareness is talking about it, wanting it, thinking about it. Well, just be aware. Come to see from the experience, your own personal experience, how awareness really is the experience of even these thoughts that are going around, these streams of thought that are wanting, grasping, all of that. Go deeper. Step 6 is deep. It comes at great cost, at great price. Look at the work you've had to do. Step 4 is not easy. Step 5 is certainly not easy. But you can still get caught up if you miss it. If you miss it, that it is awareness. You can get caught up in just overthinking it, and even talking about awareness is missing the point. It's about just being aware and distinguishing the knowing awareness from the thinker. If you could do that in the next week, I'd be really happy. I'd be happy if that could be your homework, if that could be something that you will just explore, because this is the fundamental reality. That becomes obscured in addiction. The thinking it and wanting it, the personal sense of tendency of grasping, needing, which is always now. This is a habit of a lifetime, so I don't expect people to get this in one day or 1 week or 1 month. If you've worked a few steps, then what I'm pointing at is something that can click. It just clicks. There's no one getting it. It's just awareness becomes aware of itself, and it's the prime reality. And then as that, start seeing how awareness is the experiencer. Okay. And step 6 is, once you know how awareness is the experiencer and it's not defined by any appearance, appearance is a reflection of awareness becoming. Awareness in its innermost can be an observation with a pure essence that can transmute old patterns. Unconscious attachments can dissipate and things start opening up. You're not going to learn this in one day. What I'm teaching you is very profound. This is advanced teaching in terms of awareness, integration, awakening, and all that stuff. So don't worry too much. Don't worry too much. So even with the fear of going mad or thinking you're not getting it and you're caught up in these tendencies, be aware of that and see if you can distinguish your awareness from it. And then as awareness be the experience. So that's all you're being asked to do, is that's letting go. That's letting go and being in the moment. Awareness is the moment. Let go, be in the moment, be present, be accepting, be forgiving, be merciful, be non-attached. It's all awareness. Okay. I've given you so much information this evening on step 6 and 7. Watch this again. Take notes as to what resonates with you. Maybe there's something in this that you could just meditate on or have it realized for yourself. Okay. What we are invariably at the end of recovery is awareness in the moment, the forgiveness in relation to itself, the natural expression that comes to be in our person. Okay. Next week, I'm going to do 8 and 9 together as well, because I think they bounce off better. If it's like 6 and 7, isn't it? They kind of go together, and so does 8 and 9. Okay, so next week we'll be talking a little bit more about this. Again, the same thing, awareness and its dynamic, but coming into your life, how it meets people, how it meets yourself, how the whole process then really begins as a result of step 6 in relation to the innermost, how that then comes into your person, how that then merges with other people and stuff like that. Okay, so thank you all for joining me this evening. I'll see you next week. I'll be in Sweden next week, so I'll be doing this live from Sweden at the same time, 7:30. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good evening. God bless.